Tsuro Kurosu is a young man going through a very difficult time. He doesn't work or study, and his parents have cut off all support. His apartment has no electricity, water, or internet, and it's filled with trash. One night, feeling hopeless, he decides to end his life by hanging himself with a belt on a shelf. However, his survival instincts kick in, causing him to struggle, which makes the shelf fall and collapse on top of him. While lying on the floor in pain, Kurosu notices something strange. The falling shelf created a hole in the wall. When he looks through the hole into the neighboring apartment, he's shocked to find a beautiful young woman, Ryo Miyachi, living next door. From that moment, Kurosu begins spying on her every day. He sees that Miyaki is a college student, but no one ever visits her, which makes him think she doesn't have any friends. One day, she disappears from sight, so Kurosu leaves his apartment and tries to listen at her door, even peeking through the mail slot. He stops when he notices someone else watching him, a woman named Haruko Kawasaki, who's come to check on her brother who lives a floor below Kurosu. After knocking on her brother's door and getting no answer, Haruko leaves a bag of food hanging on the doorknob and walks away. Seizing the opportunity, Kurosu steals the food, finally getting something decent to eat after surviving on snacks for so long. While sneaking back into his apartment, Kurosu is interrupted by Miyachi herself. They introduce themselves using their last names, and Miyachi invites him to eat dinner with her at her place, saying food tastes better with company. They share a pleasant meal, and Kurosu returns home feeling happy because Miyachi tells him they should do it again sometime. He begins visiting her often for meals, all while still secretly spying on her. Curious, he eventually asks why she likes spending time with someone like him. Miyachi replies that the only thing that matters is how well they can act. Touched by her words, Kurosu decides to cover the hole in the wall with paper. However, he quickly changes his mind when later that night he hears her door open during a storm. Peeking through the hole again, he sees Miyachi wearing a transparent raincoat and holding a box cutter with a man in her apartment. To Kurosu's shock, the man hugs Miyaki from behind, but she quickly uses martial arts to overpower him and kills him, smiling as she does. As bad, Kurosu is left stunned, but before he can fully process what he's seen, a stack of books falls, blocking the people. Unsure if what he witnessed was real, Kurosu is soon interrupted again by a knock at his door. It's Miyachi, cheerfully holding a pot of food and asking if they can have dinner at his place this time. They eat together again, and Miyachi admits that spending time with Kurosu helps her figure out if she's normal. After she leaves, Kurosu pushes the books away from the hole with a chopstick and sees that Miyaki's apartment looks completely normal, making him wonder if the murder was just a hallucination. Just then, he hears a voice saying goodbye to Miyaki. Rushing to his door, Kurosu sees a serious-looking woman, Reina and Meiji, leaving the apartment. She stops to tell him she knows who he is, and even calls him by name. The next morning, Kurosu runs into Miyachi again, and she suggests they eat together at his place later. Inspired, Kurosu decides to clean his messy apartment while convincing himself that what he saw wasn't real. But as the evening comes, while waiting for Miyaki, Kurosu hears noises next door. Looking through the hole again, he witnesses Miyaki killing another man, this one with a bee tattoo on his arm, smiling once more after the act. This time, Kurosu accepts the reality of what he's seeing and screams in fear, causing Miyaichi to discover the hole and stick her box cutter into it. She looks directly at Kurosu, terrifying him even more. Panicked, Kurosu runs out of his apartment, and Miyaki chases him through the streets with her box cutter in hand. Eventually, Kurosu escapes to the roof of a building where Miyaichi corners him. She forces him to admit that he's known about her killing people for some time. Fascinated by this, Miyaki finds it interesting that he continued to spend time with her despite knowing the truth. Kurosu then reveals that he once tried to kill himself, but after discovering the hole in the wall and watching her, he fell in love with her, which made him want to live. Falling to his knees, Kurosu expects Miyaichi to kill him, but she doesn't. Instead, she finds his reaction intriguing. She asks him how he feels, and Kurosu says he wants to be with her. Miyaichi agrees, but tells him that they can't become too close or she'll have to kill him. The next day, Kurosu sees Haruko finally visiting her brother, who is calmly playing with a cat. Afterward, Kurosu has lunch at home with Miyaki, who is surprised by how much he can see through the hole. He admits that he likes everything about her and promises to find a job to be a better boyfriend. Kurosu starts working at a convenience store, and whenever he uses a cutter to open boxes, he can't stop thinking about Miyachi's murders. Despite this, he continues dating her. Miyachi asks him out on a date the next day, but it turns out she just wants him to help carry her microwave to the university because her lab's one broke. At first, Kurosu feels uncomfortable among the successful people at the university, but his mood lifts when Miyaki introduces him as her boyfriend in front of her admirers. During lunch, Kurosu shares that he might retake the entrance exam next year to become a suitable partner for her, as he can't imagine a future without her. Miyaichi finds it funny that he thinks he needs to be suitable for someone like her, who plans to keep killing. After class, Miyaki asks Kurosu to take a walk, but she shocks him by suddenly putting on a clear raincoat and grabbing a woman in the street to kill her. From then on, Miyaichi goes on dates with Kurosu while killing people during their outings, which she sees as a twisted way to show affection. Kurosu wonders if she kills randomly, but Miyaki admits she has rules and a list of local criminals she targets. So this leads Kurosu to question if he can see her as a kind of justice seeker, but that still feels off. Surprisingly, none of her murders have been reported in the news. One afternoon, after talking with his neighbor Kawasaki about cute cats, Kurosu meets Miyaichi in the park and shares some papiko, a chocolate and coffee ice treat meant to be shared. Miyaki is touched that he bought something just for them. Kurosu's life starts getting better. He enjoys his new job, his apartment has power again, and he can buy a new phone. One day at work, Haruko comes comes in to buy snacks, and Kurosu gives them to her for free because he feels guilty about food he stole before. Later that evening, he finds a note on his peephole telling him to stay in his apartment at 10 p.m. When the time comes, he peeks through the hole and sees Miyaki has kidnapped Kawasaki. Kurosu tries to stop her from killing him, but Miyaki tells him to be quiet to avoid being caught and then kills their neighbor. Afterward, Reina and her team arrive in a black van to clean the crime scene, which explains why no one has discovered the murders. Kurosu visits Miyaki's apartment and demands answers. Reina explains that Miyaki is a skilled killer because she works fast and efficiently, and there are many people who need to be dealt with. However, Kurosu still doesn't understand why she killed Kawasaki. Reina takes him back to his apartment to reveal the truth. Kawasaki had been torturing the stray cats he cared for. Reina doesn't understand why Kurosu is shocked, since she believes this is also his future, because Miyaichi doesn't know how to connect with people in any other way. The next morning, Miyaki knocks on Kurosu's door, but he ignores her. She enters by jumping from her balcony to his, and when Kurosu explains that murder is wrong and there should be rules, Miyaki questions who gets to decide who should live or die, noting that laws in a country change all the time, so true justice doesn't exist. Kurosu finally admits he just didn't want to face the reality of their situation, which upsets Miyaki, and she leaves the room. Despite everything, he still has feelings for her. Later, Kurosu runs into Haruko, who is looking for her brother because he hasn't been in touch. While he tries to come up with an excuse, Miyaichi suddenly appears, feeling jealous and wanting to know who Kurosu is talking to. When Haruko reveals she is Kawasaki's sister, Miyaki invites her to wait in her apartment, but Kurosu panics and sends her away, promising to let her know if he hears from Kawasaki. Later, while having dinner with Miyaki, Kurosu can't shake his worry about Haruko finding out the truth. Miyaki reassures him, saying it's okay since Kawasaki has vanished, and due to her personal rules, she won't harm Haruko. A few days later, Haruko messages Kurosu, asking if they can meet to discuss her brother. Unsure whether to agree, Kurosu suddenly finds himself pulled into a black van where Reina is waiting. She warns him to become a suitable partner for Miyaichi or face serious consequences, stating that while he might be useless, he could make a great corpse. A few hours later, Kurosu meets Haruko for tea. She desperately needs to know what happened to her brother, so she asks him to accompany her to see their landlord, as she's afraid to go alone. Although Kurosu is hesitant, he knows he can't raise suspicion, so they go together to request access to Kawasaki's apartment. Luckily, Kurosu has nothing to worry about. Reina's team has already cleaned everything up, leaving the apartment looking normal, even including a fake airplane ticket to make it seem like he's away. Now that Haruko is less worried about her brother, she thanks Kurosu and suggests they go for a walk. When he offers her help anytime, she refuses, saying it would upset Miyaki. Kurosu admits he doesn't know Miyaki well, and that she can be a bit twisted. He feels overwhelmed by the situation. On his way home, he spots a guy with the same B tattoo as one of the previous victims putting an arm around Miyaki, who doesn't push him away. At dinner, Kurosu confronts Miyaichi about being with that guy, but she counters by accusing him of being with Haruko. Kurosu insists he only spent time with Haruko to protect Miyaichi. He tries to hug her, but she threatens him again when he gets too close. Later that night, Haruko visits the bar used by the B gang and tells them she's turning down their offer to be their killer. The gang isn't pleased with her decision, and their leader threatens to kill Kurosu if she doesn't change her mind. The next day, Miyaki walks Kurosu home, worried about his safety. When they reach their building, they find Haruko waiting for them and invite her in for tea. Haruko reveals she received a postcard from Kawasaki in Thailand, which is another trick from Reina. Suddenly, she collapses and Miyaki appears in a transparent raincoat. Miyaki admits to drugging Haruko's tea to make her sleep, intending to kill her, but Kurosu intervenes, saying things have gone too far. Miyaki insists she makes her own rules and threatens to kill him instead, but Kurosu stands firm, insisting she wouldn't do that. A few hours later, Haruko wakes up and confesses her feelings for Kurosu. She wonders if she's not good enough for him, but their moment is interrupted when Reina and her team arrive, thinking they would find a dead Haruko. She leaves in a hurry. This is the first time Miyaichi hasn't killed someone Reina wanted, leading Reina to tell Kurosu not to confuse Miyaki, as she'll never connect with him. A few days later, Miyaichi meets Reina and apologizes for wasting her time with Haruko, sharing a papico treat with her. Reina informs Miyaki that the decision of who lives or dies rests with her, but if she starts to hesitate, it will create complications. Meanwhile, Kurosu meets Haruko again at a cafe. She tells him her feelings are genuine, but he can't accept this, explaining he only wanted to help her with her brother. Haruko expresses confusion, recalling how Kurosu said Miyaki wasn't right for him. She believes Miyaichi is holding him back and tells Kurosu she'll wait for him at the cafe the next day, hoping he'll consider giving her a chance. On his way home, Kurosu encounters the B gang in a black van. They kidnap him and take him to their bar, demanding that he persuade Miyaichi to kill for them. Kurosu refuses, and they threaten to go to the police, even cutting his cheek before releasing him. When he gets home, Miyaichi notices his injury and wants to confront the gang, but Kurosu stops her, stating he would rather die at their hands than see her kill again. Miyaki reminds him that she is a murderer and can't change, but Kurosu points out that she didn't kill Haruko, suggesting she has the ability to change if she chooses. He expresses how much he likes her, but Miyaichi believes he can't accept her for who she is. Feeling hopeless about their future together, she leaves in tears, asking him to cover the peephole. Later that night, While working at the convenience store, Kurosu runs into Rina, who is buying a paprika. She mentions that Miyaki has asked for a big cleanup soon, but Kurosu still cannot accept the idea of killing. Rina insists they share a strong connection that no one can break. Bleh. Later that night, Kurosu hears noises coming from Miyaichi's apartment and decides to check through the people. He sees her committing another murder, but this time, instead of being happy afterward, she's crying, making him think that she didn't kill someone she wanted, but rather a target requested by the B gang. At that moment, he realizes something important. As he rushes out of the apartment, he calls Haruko and tells her he can't make it. Miyaichi may not change and may not need him, but he understands that he needs her. Kurosu arrives at the B gang's bar and pleads with them to make Miyaichi stop killing. They ignore him. In frustration, he tries to attack them with a cutter, but he quickly finds out he's no match for a whole gang. They dodge his attacks and throw him to the floor, ready to beat him up. The leader approaches and grabs his hand with the cutter, threatening to cut his neck like Miyaichi does. Suddenly, the power goes out, and a canister of sleeping gas is released, knocking out all the gangsters. Kurosu sees Miyaki enter wearing her clear raincoat and that. She's shocked to see him there and becomes even angrier when she sees his injuries. She takes his cutter and, along with her own, begins to take down the gangsters. They try to fight back, but she skillfully defeats them one by one. The leader is the last one left and manages to make her drop the cutters. However, she doesn't give up. With a quick move, she kills him with his own katana, adding another cut with her cutter afterward. After the fight, she helps a weak Kurosu onto the couch and explains that she'd killed another B gang member just hours earlier. The only reason she didn't smile after this kill is that it wasn't as enjoyable as usual, but she makes it clear that she won't stop killing. Kurosu tells her he likes everything about her, and after Miyaki says she likes him too, they share a moment together. Then, unexpectedly, Miyaki stabs him in the stomach. She smiles because she has always wanted to kill someone she cared about, and now she realizes it feels different, which makes Kurosu as he collapses to the floor, he hears her say that she loves him, and he manages to say it back before losing consciousness. Days later, Reina sees Miyaichi with a suitcase, and Kurosu is following her on crutches. She asks if her team should clean his room, and they agree. Rina leaves to take care of it, reminding Kurosu that just because they are going to live together doesn't mean he should stop keeping an eye on Miyaichi. As they walk away, Miyaichi tells him she won't kill anymore, but one day she will kill him, which Kurosu accepts happily because he feels like his life is hers. Then Miyaki realizes they never learned each other's first names, so they introduce themselves properly while shaking hands.